Hi everyone, this is our second week of flexible learning, and today I'm going to talk a little bit more about what is expected for lab this week. So this week's lab would have been our soils lab, in which case we would go out and we would learn a little bit more about the soils here at Harper's campus. The good news is that you guys have a little bit of familiarity with soils because as part of the acid rain lab, we went and collected soil samples. Some of you collected A horizon, some of you collected B horizon, and as part of that, you're a little bit familiar with this topic. So hopefully the things that we'll be doing in lab this week shouldn't be terribly difficult or complicated for you. So I'm here in the soil lab folder. I have the instructions, the written instructions on the three parts of the lab that I'd like you to complete this week. There's no questions that we can really cover this week, just based on the way that the questions are sort of worded and the information we would need. It's not really possible to do any lab questions. So instead, we're going to do three different lab activities as part of this week's lab. So the first activity is I'm giving you a picture of a soil profile. And I sort of kind of wrote on here very clearly, hopefully, where the A horizon is, where it begins and where it ends. It's that nice dark color. This particular soil profile is very commonly found in what we call grassland soils. So this would be, again, fairly representative of what we would find here at Harper. So here's our A horizon, and then below it, I apologize because my line doesn't extend all the way to the bottom of the screen, but everything below that then is considered our B horizon. So what I would like you to do with this soil profile picture is I would like you to try to figure out the Munsell color of the A horizon and the B horizon. So I have provided these color charts, which again, I know this is going to be a little tricky to do. I understand, just do your best. You're going to try to match up the colors that you see in these charts with the color from the A horizon and the B horizon. So just pick a spot in A and pick a spot in B. It doesn't really matter which, and just find a color that most closely matches what you think it is. And again, there's a lot of flexibility here because typically when we do this activity, we have the soil in our hands and we put the color charts on top of it and we actually look for the right color. We can't do that this time. So you will find what's called the value, which is going to be on the numbers on the left, and then you will find the chroma, which are the numbers that are on the bottom. So for example, if I was looking at the A horizon and I thought it sort of looks like this color right here, I would say, oh, that's a 3, 3. Okay, so then in the lab manual on page 61, there is, oh, here we go. There is a part down here, part B, which are soil characteristics based on your profile, and it asks you for the Munsell number. So those are the numbers you write down, one for A and one for B, for example. Okay, and then on the following page, in table 7.3, which is here, you're going to use the color that you found from the B horizon, so whatever number that was, and you're going to look in this table and figure out, based on that number, what type of minerals we have in those soils. So you'd find the number sort of here in the chart, and then you'll write down here on the bottom what minerals are found in the B horizon. Not terribly difficult. Should be fairly simple. Again, just use your best judgment with the color. So that's part one of the lab. The next part of the lab, I want you to look at the soil data document. So the soil data document has results of what would have been our soil fertility tests. So in lab, we would have done a test to see what the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium levels are. Can't do that. So what I'm doing instead is I'm giving you that data. So we're just looking at the A horizon this time, and here's the nutrient data. So, so nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium is listed here. And then table 7.5 in your lab is a bunch of different crops, which is right here. And then also the amount of pounds per acre. Oh, I just realized that this document says parts per million. It should say pounds per acre. My apologies. I will correct the document. It says pounds per acre needed in order to grow these things. So, for example, if we wanted to grow barley, we would need 50 pounds of nitrogen, 20 pounds of phosphorus, and 40 pounds of potassium. At Harper, we have 10 pounds of nitrogen, 200 pounds of phosphorus, and 180 pounds of potassium. So we don't have enough nitrogen. So you would write, oops, here we go. You would write no right there. We do have enough phosphorus and we do have enough potassium, but again, we don't have enough nitrogen there. So you would go through and sort of figure out all of these crops and whether or not we could grow things here on Harper's campus. So again, I also apologize for this saying parts per million. It's supposed to say pounds per acre. I will fix that. That's the second part of the lab. Third part of the lab is looking at soil insects, soil invertebrates. So typically during this lab, we would have taken our scoop of soil and put it in a great big funnel and shone a light on it, and a bunch of little critters that lived in the soil would have fallen out of the funnels into these little jars that we had, and we would take a look and count and separate and figure out what type of soil invertebrates we have. Again, not particularly doing that because we're not in lab, but what I've given you instead is I have given you, back here in the soil data document, I've given you the species that we have typically we see in the soil. So I gave you 10 different species. You're going to write those down in table 7.9. Don't worry about the number of species or the number of each of those because obviously we didn't actually collect these. Just write down the species names. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to use these soil pictures of these invertebrates and figure out what's an herbivore and what's a carnivore for all of the species I've given you. Okay, so again, nothing difficult, fairly simple. You just find the different little soil invertebrates I gave you and write down whether they're herbivores or whether they're carnivores. So that does it for this particular lab. Again, don't forget you're not turning any of this into me right now. You're going to hold on to the pages and show me later. You do need to do the lab quiz, which lab quiz is found down here. So please make sure you do get that finished. The deadline for work for this particular week happens to be by the end of the day on Sunday, April 5th. As always, please let me know if you have any questions, and good luck, everybody.